The Great Hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with quiet conversations. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in their assigned seats, waiting for the session to begin. The massive dome above them showed the swirling colors of the Nexus, Prime Nebula. Casting strange shadows across the assembled aliens, Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire stood at the center podium. His blue skin gleamed under the artificial lights, and his forearms moved gracefully as he prepared his speech. Today's topic would settle an old debate once and for all. Fellow beings of the galaxy, Veltar began, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. We gather today to address the persistent rumors that have plagued our trade routes for 3 centuries. I speak of the so-called humans. A ripple of murmurs went through the crowd. Some delegates leaned forward with interest, while others showed clear skepticism on their faces. These stories, Veltar continued, speak of mysterious beings from a system called Sol, tales of impossible rescues, of ships that appear from nowhere to help stranded vessels, of warriors who fight with primitive weapons yet somehow win against superior technology. The ambassador paused, letting his words sink in. Today, I present our final report. After extensive investigation, we have concluded that these humans are nothing more than stories. Myths created by the Outer Rim colonies to justify their independence from galactic law. Far from the council chambers, in the deep black of space, near the galactic edge, Commander Yuki stood on the bridge of a research vessel. The Harmony was small compared to military ships, but it was fast and well-equipped for exploration. Her pointed ears twitched as she listened to the strange signals coming through the communication system. Commander called her Pilot Day from his station. These transmissions are unlike anything in our database. The patterns are too complex for natural phenomena, but they don't match any known species. Yuki walked over to examine the readings. She was young for a ship commander, but her scientific mind had earned her this position. Her species, the Altarians, were known for their curiosity and careful research methods. What do you think, Bin? She asked her engineer. Bin looked up from his console, his large eyes reflecting the green glow of the displays. The power signatures are strange, Commander. Whoever is sending these signals has technology that works differently from ours. Not better or worse, just different. At the communication station, Nari was busy trying to decode the mysterious signals. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she applied various translation protocols. I'm picking up what sounds like music, she reported, and voices. Lots of voices, all speaking in patterns I've never heard before. Yuki felt familiar. Excitement. This was why she had become an explorer. Set course for the source of these transmissions, she ordered, but maintain stealth protocols. We don't know what we're dealing with. The Harmony turned toward the unknown, its engines humming quietly in the darkness. Meanwhile, on a blue and green world orbiting a yellow star, Captain Hoon stood in the command center of the Earth Defense Force. The underground facility was hidden beneath the mountains, its existence known only to a select few. Through the reinforced windows, he could see the lights of the city below. Unaware of the momentous decision being made above them, the Council has made their official statement, reported Dr. Minji, Earth's chief xenologist. She was young but brilliant, having spent years studying the alien civilizations that surrounded their hidden world. They've declared us myths. Fairy. Tails Hoon nodded grimly. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but his military bearing showed the weight of command. Perhaps that's for the best. It's kept us safe for this long. But, sir, interrupted Major Tay from his position at the tactical, display our scouts report increased activity in the outer systems. More ships, more patrols, are getting closer to our hidden bases. For decades, humanity had existed in the shadows of galactic civilization. They had learned the alien languages, studied their technology, and carefully observed their politics. When necessary, they had intervened to prevent wars or disasters, but always from the shadows. The galaxy knew them only as ghost stories and unexplained phenomena. The President has made her decision, Hoon announced. It's time to make contact. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. For 3 generations, humanity had lived in secret, protecting themselves, and occasionally helping others without revealing their existence. Now that would change. Sir asked Dr. Minji, what about the Council's declaration? They've officially stated we don't exist. Smiled slightly. Then we'll have to prove them wrong. Back in space, the Harmony continued its journey toward the mysterious signals. The crew had been analyzing the transmissions for hours, and the results were puzzling. Commander Nari called out, I think I'm starting to understand some of the patterns. These aren't just random communications. They're organized like a civilization's normal chatter, but the technology behind them is completely foreign. Yuki studied the data on her personal display. The energy signatures were indeed strange, using principles that didn't match any known physics. Yet somehow, they worked. Commander Day announced from the pilot station, we're approaching the source of the signals. But sensors aren't showing any planets or stations in this area. That's impossible, Ben said, checking his instruments. The signals have to be coming from somewhere. Yuki felt a chill run down her spine. Go to full passive sensors. I want to know what's out there without revealing our presence. As the Harmony glided through the darkness, its advanced sensors began to paint a picture of the space around them. What they found defied explanation. There were ships here, but they were unlike anything in the Galactic database. They were sleek and dark, almost invisible against the star field. Commander, whispered Day, there's something directly ahead. It's big and it's moving. On the main screen, a shape began to resolve itself. It was a ship, but its design was completely foreign. It moved with a grace that seemed almost alive, its hull reflecting the starlight in strange patterns. Are they scanning us? Yuki asked. I don't think so, Ben replied, his voice uncertain. But, Commander, I'm detecting something else. There are more ships out there? Lots more? Yuki realized they had stumbled into something much larger than a simple first contact scenario. Whatever these beings were, they had been here for a long time, watching and waiting in the darkness between the stars. Signal the ship, she ordered. Let them know we come in peace. As Nari sent out the standard greeting protocols, Yuki couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to change the course of galactic history. The Council had declared humans to be myths. But myths had a way of becoming very real when you least expected them. The unknown ship ahead of them began to respond, its alien lights blinking in patterns that seemed almost familiar. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days after the Council meeting, Commander Yuki received an urgent message from Fleet Command. A Zephyrian scout ship called the Windrunner had gone missing in the outer sectors. It was her job to find out what happened to it. The Harmony moved through space at full speed, following the last known position of the missing vessel. Yuki stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by on the main screen. Something felt wrong about this mission. Scout ships didn't just disappear without a trace. Commander called Day from his pilot station. I'm picking up a debris field. Ahead, it matches the Windrunner's hull signature. Yuki felt her stomach tighten. Slow to sublight. Deploy defensive shields. We don't know what we're dealing with. The Harmony dropped out of faster-than-light travel and approached the debris. Field carefully. What they found was disturbing. The Windrunner was intact, but drifting powerless in space. Its hull showed strange burn marks that didn't match any known weapon technology. Bin, can you scan for life signs? Yuki asked. Her engineer worked at his console for several minutes. I'm detecting weak life support on the lower decks. Someone might still be alive over there. Yuki made her decision quickly. Prepare a boarding party. Full environmental suits. We're going over there. Work hour later, Yuki led a small team through the airlock into the Windrunner. The ship was dark and cold, its corridors filled with the smell of burnt electronics. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the walls. They found the crew in the main cargo bay, sealed behind emergency barriers. 3 Zephyrian officers were alive but badly shaken. Their leader, a young lieutenant named Kex, could barely speak. What happened here? Yuki asked gently. Kex looked up at her with wide, frightened eyes. They came out of nowhere. Ships that our sensors couldn't detect properly. The crew fought them, but their weapons were different. Strange. Who were they? Yuki pressed. I don't know, Kex whispered. They looked like the beings from the old stories, the ones the Council says aren't real. But Commander, they were very real. They boarded our ship and fought our security team hand to hand. Yuki felt a chill run down her spine. Did they hurt anyone? Your strange part, Kex said. They could have killed us all easily. But they didn't. They disabled our weapons and our engines. Then they left. But before they went, their leader said something strange. What did he say? He said they were sorry for the trouble and that they were only protecting their territory. Then he gave us these emergency supplies and told us someone would come to help us soon. Yuki looked around the cargo bay. Indeed, there were emergency food and medical supplies that didn't match Zephyrion technology. Someone had cared enough to make sure the crew would survive. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Minji was working late in her laboratory. The walls were covered with displays showing alien languages, star charts, and cultural data. She had been studying galactic civilization for years, preparing for the day when humanity would finally make contact. Dr. Mingi called her assistant, a young man named Jay. We're receiving a priority message from Captain Hoon. Minji looked up from her work, put it through. Captain Hoon's face appeared on the main screen. He looked tired but determined. Doctor, we have a situation. One of our stealth ships encountered an alien vessel 3 hours ago. It seems first contact has begun whether we're ready or not. Mingi felt her heart race. What happened? The ship was a research vessel called the Harmony. They found a derelict Zephyrian scout ship and rescued the crew. Our ship, the Defiant, was in the area conducting routine surveillance when they appeared.
Ow.
They hostile? Minji asked. No, Hoon replied. Captain Yuki seems to be a scientist like yourself. She's curious rather than aggressive, but she's asking questions we're not prepared to answer. Minji nodded. I'll prepare the first contact protocols. We'll need linguistic analysis, cultural briefings, and diplomatic guidelines. Work fast, Doctor. Can't keep this secret much longer. Space, the Harmony, and the Defiant faced each other across a few kilometers of empty void. Captain Hoon stood on the bridge of his ship, studying the alien vessel on his screen. It was smaller than the Defiant, but obviously well-designed for scientific research. Sir, reported his communications officer, they're sending another message. Their universal translator is getting better at our language. Put it through, Hoon ordered. Commander Yuki's voice filled the bridge. Unknown vessel. This is Commander Yuki of the Altarian research ship, Harmony. We mean no harm. We're investigating the attack on the Zephyrian scout ship. Can you help us understand what happened? Hoon looked at his tactical officer, Major Tay. The young man shook his head slightly. They weren't ready for this conversation. Commander Yuki, Hoon replied carefully, we're also investigating unusual activity in this sector. Perhaps we can share information. There was a long pause. Then Yuki's voice came back, more curious than before. Your ship design is unlike anything in our databases. What species are you? Hoon felt the weight of history on his shoulders. The next words he spoke would change everything. We're human. He said simply. The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Finally, Yuki's voice returned, filled with wonder and disbelief. Human? But the council says you're myths, stories told by frightened merchants and colonial rebels.
The council,
Hoon replied, has been wrong about many things. On the Harmony's bridge, Yuki stared at the unknown ship with new eyes. The crew around her was equally stunned. They had found proof that one of the galaxy's greatest mysteries was real. Commander, whispered Nari, if they're really human. Then all those stories about ghost ships and impossible rescues, were true, Yuki finished. They've been out here all along, watching us. She activated the communication system again. Captain Hoon, I believe we have much to discuss. Would you be willing to meet face to face? Hoon considered the request. Earth's leaders had authorized first contact, but they had expected to control the circumstances. Now they were being asked to trust an alien scientist with humanity's greatest secret. Very well, he agreed. But this meeting must remain confidential until we can properly inform our governments. Agreed, Yuki replied. There's an abandoned research station in the next system. We could meet there. As both ships prepared to jump to the meeting point, their crews realized they were about to witness history. The galaxy had declared humans to be myths. But myths were about to become very real. Dr. Minji worked frantically to prepare first contact protocols. while Major TE readied security teams. On the Harmony, Yuki briefed her crew on the importance of this moment. Neither side knew that this meeting would soon shake the foundations of galactic civilization itself. The abandoned research station floated silently in the void between two dead worlds. Once it had been a bustling hub of scientific activity, but now it served as the perfect meeting place for two species about to make history. Commander Yuki felt nervous as she walked through the station's corridors. Her small team included Dr. J, a linguist who had been studying the human transmissions, and two security officers. The artificial gravity felt strange after days in space, and the empty halls echoed with their footsteps. Commander J whispered, "Are you sure about this? These humans are real? It changes everything we know about the galaxy." Yuki nodded. "That's exactly why we need to understand them. The Council was wrong, and we need to know what else they might have missed." Reached the main conference room and found it already occupied. 3 humans sat at the far side of the table, and Yuki got her first close look at the species everyone believed to be myths. Captain Hoon stood up as they entered. He was tall and moved with the confidence of a military officer, but his eyes showed kindness. Next to him was a woman with short dark hair, who introduced herself as Dr. Mingi, and a younger man in uniform who was clearly a soldier. Commander Yuki Hoon said, speaking in perfect galactic standard, "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Yuki stared at him in wonder. "Your language skills are excellent. How long have you been studying our cultures?" "Longer than you might think," Dr. Minji replied. "We've been watching the galaxy for over 60 years. We know your languages, your history, your politics." "But why?" Jay asked. "Why stay hidden?" Hoon gestured for everyone to sit down. "Because we weren't ready for what we found. When we first discovered that we weren't alone in the universe, we realized how dangerous it could be. So we decided to learn first and reveal ourselves only when we were prepared." "The attack on the Zephyrian ship," Yuki said. "That was you, wasn't it?" Major Tay, the young soldier, spoke up. "It wasn't an attack. It was a rescue mission. The Windrunner had stumbled into a trap set by pirates. We drove off the attackers and made sure the crew was safe." "But why make it look like an attack?" Yuki asked. "'Cause we're not supposed to exist," Hoon explained. "If we had revealed ourselves then, it would have caused panic. We've learned that it's better to work from the shadows." Dr. Minji activated a holographic display that showed star charts of the local region. "Commander, what we're about to show you might be difficult to believe, but we have proof." The display changed to show shipping routes, battle sites, and diplomatic meetings from the past 50 years. Red markers appeared at dozens of locations. "These are places where humans have intervened in galactic affairs," Minji explained. "We've prevented 3 major wars, stopped a plague outbreak in the Vega system, and rescued thousands of people from disasters." Yuki felt her world shifting. The miracle of Vega Prime. The historian said it was lucky that the cure was found just in time. "It wasn't luck," Hoon said quietly. "Dr. Mingi developed the cure in our laboratories and made sure it reached the right people." "The peace treaty between the hegemony and the Trade Federation," Jay added, staring at the display. Everyone said, "It was impossible, but somehow the negotiations succeeded." "We made sure both sides received information that encouraged compromise," Tay admitted. "Sometimes a little truth shared at the right moment can prevent millions of deaths." Yuki stood up and walked to the display. The scope of human intervention was staggering. "You've been manipulating galactic politics for decades." "Not manipulating," Hoon corrected. "Protecting. We've never taken sides in your conflicts for personal gain. We've only acted to prevent unnecessary suffering." "But why?" Yuki asked. "Do you care what happens to us?" Dr. Mingi smiled sadly. "'Cause we know what it's like to be alone in the universe. When we first reached the stars, we thought we were the only intelligent life. Finding all of you was the greatest gift we could have imagined. We couldn't just stand by and watch you destroy yourselves." Meanwhile, on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council was in emergency session. News of the human contact had somehow leaked, and panic was spreading through the government halls. Ambassador Veltar stood before the assembled representatives, his blue skin pale with stress. "The reports are confirmed. Species we declared to be myths has made contact with one of our research vessels." Angry voices filled the chamber. Representatives demanded answers, explanations, and action. "How is this possible?" shouted the delegate from the hegemony worlds. "Our intelligence services are the best in the galaxy. How could an entire civilization remain hidden?" More importantly, called out another voice. "What else have they been hiding? They've been watching us for decades. What do they know that we don't?" Veltar raised his hands for quiet. "We're still gathering information. But preliminary reports suggest that this species, these humans, have been intervening in galactic affairs for years." A new voice spoke up from the back of the chamber. "What kind of interventions?" "According to our sources," Veltar replied reluctantly, "they may have been preventing wars, providing medical aid, and influencing diplomatic negotiations." The chamber erupted in angry shouts. The idea that unknown aliens had been manipulating galactic civilization was terrifying to many of the representatives. Back on the abandoned station, the historic meeting continued. Commander Yuki was studying detailed reports of human activities, her scientific mind trying to process the implications. "The ghost ship sightings," she said suddenly. "The rescue of the passenger liner Bright Hope. The mysterious supply drops. During the famine on Kepler 7, all of these were human operations," among others Hoon confirmed. "We've tried to help where we could without revealing ourselves. But that's about to change," Dr. Minji added. "Our leaders have decided that. The time for secrecy is over. The galaxy is going to learn about humanity whether we're ready or not." Yuki looked at each of the humans in turn. "What do you want from us?" "Partnership," Hoon replied. "We want to work with the galactic community openly. No more secrets, no more shadows. But we need allies who can help us make the transition." "You want us to speak for you to the council?" Jay realized. "If you're willing," Minji said. "You know this is a lot to ask, but you're scientists, explorers. You understand the importance of truth." Yuki felt the weight of history on her shoulders. The decisions she made in the next few moments would affect the entire galaxy. "I'll do it," she said finally. "But I need to know everything. No more secrets between us." Who nodded. "No more secrets. The galaxy deserves to know the truth about humanity." As the meeting continued into the night, both sides began to understand that they were planning something that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The age of human secrecy was coming to an end. 2 weeks after the secret meeting, the Galactic Council made a decision that would change everything. Admiral Kekstar of the Hegemony Fleet stood before the War Council, his red eyes gleaming with determination. "We cannot allow these humans to continue operating in secret," he declared. "They have been manipulating our civilization for decades. This is an act of war." The other military leaders nodded in agreement. Fear had replaced curiosity in the halls of power. The idea that unknown aliens had been watching and influencing galactic affairs terrified them. "What do you propose?" asked General Vox, commander of the Council Defense Force. "A test," Kekstar replied. "We send a diplomatic mission to their homeworld, but it will really be a reconnaissance force. We need to know their true capabilities, and if they resist," Vox asked. Kekstar smiled coldly. "Then we'll have our answer." "About their intentions?" On Earth, General Su stood in the command center watching the approach of the alien fleet. The underground facility buzzed with activity as officers monitored the incoming ships. President Ray and Defense Minister Wan stood beside him, their faces grim. "How many ships?" President Ray asked. 50 vessels, Su replied. "They're claiming it's a diplomatic mission, but those are warships disguised as transports." "They're testing us," one realized. "They want to see how we react to a show of force." Captain Hoon entered the command center, still wearing his dress, uniform from the official ceremonies. Earth's first contact with alien civilization had been announced to the world just days ago, and the planet was still adjusting to the news. Sir Hoon reported, "The alien fleet is requesting permission to land. They say they want to establish formal diplomatic relations." President Ray looked at her advisors. "What do you think?" "It's a trap," General Su said bluntly. Not here to talk. They're here to study our defenses. And we give them what they expect to see, President Ray decided. Let them land. But make sure they understand we're not helpless. Meanwhile, in space near the outer colonies, the human colony ship New Horizon drifted peacefully through the void. Its 5,000 passengers were families seeking new homes. On distant worlds, the ship looked like any other civilian vessel. With its white hull and simple design, Captain Yan commanded the New Horizon. She was reviewing the passenger manifest when her communications officer called out, "Captain, we have incoming ships." "They're not responding to our hails." Yan looked at the tactical display. 6 hegemony warships were approaching at high speed. "Are they hostile?" "Unknown, but they're targeting our engines." Yan felt her blood. "Run cold. Red alert. All hands to emergency stations." The hegemony ships opened fire without warning. Energy beams struck the New Horizon's hull, but instead of penetrating, they were absorbed by hidden defensive systems. The colony ship's outer hull began to shift and change. "Return fire," Yan ordered calmly. What the hegemony ships had thought was a helpless civilian vessel suddenly revealed its true nature. Weapon ports opened along the hull, and advanced defensive systems came online. The New Horizon was not just a colony ship. It was a fully armed warship disguised as a transport. The battle lasted only minutes. The human ship's weapons were designed to disable rather than destroy. And soon, all 6 hegemony vessels were drifting powerless in space. Their crews were alive, but stunned by the swift defeat. "This is Captain Yan of the New Horizon," she broadcast. "To the disabled ships, your vessels will be repaired and you will be returned to your fleet. But next time, try asking nicely before you start shooting." News of the battle spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The hegemony had expected to destroy a helpless colony ship. But instead, they had discovered that even civilian human vessels were more than they seemed. On Earth, the alien diplomatic mission was getting a tour of human cities. Admiral Kekstar walked through the streets of New Geneva, studying everything he saw. The humans appeared to be friendly and welcoming, but he knew better than to trust appearances. "Your cities are impressive," he told his human guide, Dr. Minji. "But where are your military installations?" "Why would we show weapons to guests?" Minji replied with a smile. "We prefer to display our culture and achievements." That evening, Kekstar met with President Ray in the official reception hall. The human leader was smaller than he had expected, but her eyes showed the intelligence that had built this hidden civilization. "President Ray," Kekstar began, "the Galactic Council is concerned about your people's activities. You've been interfering in our affairs for decades." "We've been helping," Ray corrected. "There's a difference." "Without our permission or knowledge," Kekstar pressed. "How do we know your intentions are peaceful?" President Ray stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of the city stretched to the horizon. "Admiral, in the past 60 years, how many wars has your civilization fought?" "I don't see how that's relevant." "Humor me," Ray said. "How many?" Kekstar thought for a moment. 3 major conflicts and dozens of smaller disputes. "And how many do you think there would have been without our intervention?" The Admiral frowned. "What do you mean?" "We have detailed records, Admiral. Without human intervention, your civilization would have fought at least 12 major wars. Billions would have died. Entire species might have been extinct." Kekstar felt a chill run down his spine. "You're saying you prevented wars." "We're saying we prevented unnecessary suffering," President Ray replied. "Every time we acted, it was to save lives, never to gain power or territory." "Then why hide?" Kekstar demanded. "Why not work with us openly?" "'Cause we knew you would react exactly as you have," Ray said sadly. "With fear and suspicion. Hoped that by proving ourselves through our actions, we could eventually earn your trust. And now," President Ray turned back to face him, "we're done hiding. The galaxy knows about us, and we're prepared to work openly, but we won't be bullied or tested like children." Kekstar realized that his mission had failed. He'd come to Earth expecting to find a primitive species that could be easily controlled. Instead, he had found a civilization that was more advanced than his own, yet chose to use its power to protect others. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now, President," Ray said, We find out if the galaxy is ready for the truth about humanity. Your fleet attacked our colony ship today. Our response was measured and merciful. But Admiral, don't mistake mercy for weakness. As the alien diplomatic mission prepared to leave Earth, Kexstar understood that the galaxy was about to change. Forever, the humans were no longer myths or stories. They were real, they were powerful, and they were no longer hiding. The test was over, and the results would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Representatives from every major species packed the Great Hall, their voices rising in heated debate. The revelation of human capabilities had shattered the peace that had existed for decades. Ambassador Veltar stood at the podium, his forearms trembling with exhaustion. He had been answering questions for hours, trying to explain how an entire civilization had remained hidden for so long. "The humans have been manipulating us for 60 years, shouted the delegate from the hegemony worlds. They've been pulling our strings like puppets, making us dance to their tune. They prevented wars. Commander Yuki called out from the Scientific Council section. They saved billions of lives.
How is that?
Manipulation, because they never asked us, replied the Trade Federation representative. They decided our fate without consulting us. What right did they have to interfere? The debate raged for hours. Some species called for immediate war against humanity. Others argued for caution, remembering the swift defeat of the hegemony fleet. A few, led by Commander Yuki, pushed for peaceful cooperation. Dr. Minji sat in the diplomatic gallery, listening to the arguments with growing concern. She had been invited to speak to the council, but the mood in the hall was becoming increasingly hostile. "The question we must ask," declared the representative from the core worlds, "is whether we can trust a species that has been lying to us for decades." "We didn't lie," Dr. Minji said, standing up. "We simply chose not to reveal ourselves until we were ready." "The same thing," snapped the hegemony delegate. "You watched us, studied us, influenced our decisions, all while hiding. In the shadows. How do we know you're not still manipulating us?" Dr. Minji walked to the center of the hall. "'Cause we're here now, speaking openly. We've shared our technology, our history, our reasons for remaining hidden. What more can we do to prove our intentions?" "You can leave," Admiral Kexstar said as he entered the hall. "Remove your people from our space and never return."
Ow.
The hall fell silent. Kexstar's report from Earth had been classified, but rumors had spread quickly through the military channels. Admiral Commander Yuki said, "Surely you don't mean that. The humans have been protecting us." "Have they?" Kexstar asked. "Or have they been controlling us? Think about it. Every major decision our civilization has made in the past 60 years has been influenced by human intervention. We've never been truly free." Dr. Minji felt the mood in the hall shift. Fear was winning over reason. "We never controlled anyone. We simply provided information and assistance when it was needed." "Information that came from spying on us," Kexstar replied. "Assistance that came without our consent. You've been treating us like children who can't make their own decisions. Because without our help, you would have destroyed yourselves," Dr. Minji said with growing frustration. "We have the records. We've prevented 3 major wars that would have killed billions. Wars that might never have happened," the core world's representative argued. "We'll never know now because you interfered." The debate continued through the night. Fear and anger dominated the discussions. The galaxy that had benefited from human protection for decades was now turning against their hidden guardians. Meanwhile, on Earth, emergency meetings were taking place in government buildings around the world. President Ray sat in the Situation Room, surrounded by military advisors and diplomats. "The reports from the Council are not good," Defense Minister Wan said. "At least half the galaxy now sees us as a threat. What about our allies, President?" Ray asked. "Commander Yuki is still speaking for us," reported Dr. Mingi via secure communication from the Council chambers. "But she's fighting an uphill battle. Fear is spreading faster than reason." General Su activated a holographic display showing ship movements throughout the galaxy. Intelligence reports suggest that several species are forming a military alliance. They're calling it the Liberation Coalition. "Liberation from what?" President Ray asked. From us, General Sue replied grimly. They believe we've been enslaving them through manipulation. Admiral Kekstar is leading the movement. President Ray closed her eyes and rubbed her temples. How many species are involved? At least 30, including the hegemony, the Trade Federation, and the core worlds. That's about 60% of the galaxy's military force. And the others? Some are neutral, waiting to see what happens. A few, like Commander Yuki's people, are still supporting us. But they're outnumbered. The president stood up and walked. To the window, outside, the lights of New Geneva twinkled in the darkness. For the first time in decades, Earth felt vulnerable. What are our options? She asked. We could retreat, one suggested. Pull back all our ships and personnel. Return to hiding. That's not an option, President Ray said firmly. We've revealed ourselves. There's no going back. Then we prepare for war, General Sue said. Our technology is superior, but they have numbers. No, President Ray said. We didn't spend 60 years protecting the galaxy just to destroy it now. There has to be another way. Back at the council chambers, the debate was reaching a climax. A vote was being called to demand the immediate withdrawal of all human forces from galactic space. Commander Yuki stood up one last time. Before you vote, I want you to remember something. 2 years ago, a plague threatened to wipe out the colonies in the Vega system. The cure appeared mysteriously just in time to save millions of lives. That was the humans. 5 years ago, the hegemony and Trade Federation were on the brink of war over mining rights. A diplomatic solution was found at the last moment. That was human intervention. 10 years ago, the core worlds faced economic collapse. New trade agreements saved their economy. Those agreements were suggested by human advisors working in secret. She looked around the hall at the assembled representatives. You wanna know the price of human deception? It's the lives they saved, the wars they prevented, the suffering they ended. If that's manipulation, then maybe we need more of it. The vote was close, but fear won. By a narrow margin, the council demanded that humanity withdraw from galactic space within 30 days. Dr. Minji stood up slowly. The human government will consider the council's request. But remember this day. Remember the choice you made. Because when the next crisis comes, when the next war threatens to tear the galaxy apart, we won't be there to help. Hall Dr. Mingy knew that the galaxy was about to learn the true cost of independence. Without human protection, the old conflicts would return. The peace they had known for decades was about to end. The age of human guardianship was over. Age of galactic chaos was about to begin. The war began 3 months after the council's vote. Just as the humans had predicted, the old conflicts returned with a vengeance. The hegemony attacked the Trade Federation over disputed mining rights. The core worlds declared war on the Outer Rim colonies. Within weeks, the galaxy was burning. Admiral Kekstar stood on the bridge of his flagship. Watching the battle for the Altair system unfold on the main screen, his Liberation Coalition had grown to include most of the major powers, but they were losing the war. Without human intervention to prevent conflicts, everyone was fighting everyone else. Sir, his communications officer reported, we're receiving a surrender offer from the Trade Federation. Reject it, Kekstar ordered. We finish this now. But even as he spoke, Kekstar knew the truth. The coalition was falling apart. Species that had united against humanity were now fighting each other. The galaxy was tearing itself apart. On Earth, President Ray watched the reports from the war zones with growing sadness. The conflict had spread to dozens of systems, and millions were dying. Everything humanity had worked to prevent was happening. We have to do something, Defense Minister Wan said. You can't just sit here and watch the galaxy destroy itself. The council made their choice, President Ray replied. They wanted independence from human interference. We're giving it to them. But innocent people are dying, Dr. Mingy protested. Civilians who had nothing to do with the council's decision. Admiral Hoon entered the situation room carrying urgent reports. Ma'am, we're receiving thousands of distress calls from refugee ships. The war has created a humanitarian crisis, unlike anything in galactic history. President Ray looked at the faces around her. Her advisors were right. Politics aside, people were suffering. What do you recommend? Limited intervention, Admiral Hoon suggested. We help the refugees, protect civilian ships, but we don't take sides in the war. The Council will see that as more manipulation, one warned. Then let them, President Ray decided. We didn't reveal ourselves to the galaxy just to watch it burn, begin humanitarian operations immediately. The first human ships appeared in the war zones within days. They came not as conquerors, but as rescuers evacuating civilians from combat areas and establishing refugee camps on neutral worlds. The sight of human vessels brought hope to millions of displaced people. Commander. Yuki was among the first to welcome the human relief efforts. Her ship, the Harmony, had been converted into a refugee transport. She was working closely with human crews to save lives. I told you the Council was making a mistake, she said to Captain Hoon, as they coordinated rescue operations near the Vega system. The Council was afraid, Hoon replied. Fear makes people do foolish things. And now the galaxy is paying the price, Yuki said sadly. How many have died because of their pride? Too many, Hoon agreed. But it's not too late to change things. The turning point came when Admiral Kekstar's fleet encountered a human rescue convoy in the Centauri system. The convoy was evacuating civilians from a planet caught between the warring factions. Kekstar ships moved to intercept, seeing an opportunity to strike at the humans. Admiral, his tactical officer, reported, "The human ships are not armed. They're pure rescue vessels, and they're easy targets," Kekstar replied. Fire at will. But as the Liberation Coalition ships opened fire, something unexpected happened. The refugee ships they were supposed to protect turned on them. Thousands of civilians who had been saved by human efforts refused to let their rescuers be attacked. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving messages from the refugee fleet. They're demanding we cease fire." "Ignore them," Kekstar ordered. "Continue the attack." But his own crews were hesitating. Many of them had family members who had been saved by human rescue efforts. The order to fire on their rescuers felt wrong. "Admiral," his first officer said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider." No, Kekstar snapped. "The humans are the enemy. They've been manipulating us for decades." "They've been saving us," the first officer replied. "My sister was on a refugee ship they rescued last week. If they're enemies, why are they helping us?" The question hung in the air. Around the bridge, other officers were nodding in agreement. The Liberation Coalition was beginning to fracture as its members realized the truth. On Earth, the reports from the Centauri system brought new hope. The galaxy was finally starting to see humanity's true nature. President Ray called an emergency meeting of world leaders. "The war is turning," she announced. "More species are questioning the coalition's goals. Some are even asking for our help." "What about the Council?" asked Defense Minister Wan. "The Council is paralyzed," Dr. Minji reported. "Half the members are fighting each other. The other half are trying to negotiate peace, but don't know how." "Then we give them away," President Ray decided. "We call for a new Galactic conference. Not as hidden manipulators, but as open partners." The invitation went out across the galaxy. Humanity offered to host a peace conference on the neutral world of Haven, a planet that had been jointly terraformed by multiple species. The response was overwhelming. Even Admiral Kekstar, facing rebellion in his own ranks, agreed to attend. The conference hall on Haven was packed with representatives from hundreds of worlds. But this time, the atmosphere was different. Instead of fear and suspicion, there was hope for a new beginning. President Ray stood at the podium, looking out at the assembled delegates. "We gather here not as enemies, but as neighbors, in a vast and dangerous galaxy. The past months have shown us what happens when we let fear divide us. The humans have been protecting us for 60 years, Commander Yuki said, rising from her seat. "They've prevented wars, stopped plagues, and saved millions of lives. Yes, they did it in secret. But they did it out of love for life itself." Admiral Kekstar stood up slowly. The past weeks had changed him. He'd seen the cost of the war he had helped start. "I led the coalition because I believed humans were trying to control us. I was wrong. They were trying to protect us." "From what?" called out a delegate from the core worlds. "From ourselves," Kekstar replied. The galaxy is a dangerous place. We need guardians, not masters. The humans have proven they can be trusted with that responsibility. The negotiations continued for days. In the end, a new galactic order emerged. The old council was disbanded, replaced by a partnership between humanity and the other species. Humans would serve as peacekeepers and mediators, but they would work openly, the consent of all members. Dr. Minji was appointed as the first human ambassador to the new Galactic Alliance. Commander Yuki became the first alien to serve on the human diplomatic staff. Together, they began building a future where all species could work together as equals. The war was over. The galaxy was healing. And for the first time in its history, humanity was no longer hiding in the shadows. They had taken their place as the protectors they had always been, not through deception, but through trust and cooperation. The myths had become reality. The Guardians were real, and the galaxy was safer for it.